Hello. So I wanted to show what I'm doing here. I am doing a quilt that is on point, meaning that when you look at the quilt straight up and down, you're looking, the blocks are on point, meaning diagonal. So when you're putting a quilt together like this, you're putting your rows together diagonally. And you'll see that on this particular pattern, I have these setting triangles on the edge that are pieced, some of them. Some of them are pieced with the corner of the diamond. And so it's can get really confusing. So you see I've been scribbling on here trying to make it make sense in my own brain because everybody reads patterns differently. And so this is a Cozy Quilts design pattern, and it's copyrighted and all that, so I can't show all of it. But anyway, just to show what I'm doing now, I'm down here on this row. I've got these done. I'm on this row right here, and I'm getting ready to pin it. And because this row is meeting the one above, and there's a lot of points here, and so I have to do a lot of pinning on this. And so I was going to show you how I pin it to make sure that my star points all meet up. Okay, so this weird little corner here, ignore this for now. I can hopefully show you in another sometime later how I'm putting on the corners, the cornerstones. And so anyway, I've got it lined up here, and I'm going to start pinning it. And what I'm doing is I'm going to ease in, make sure that all of my points meet here, and I'm going to securely pin it there and make sure that my end is straight. Hopefully this is on camera and you can see it. And I can zoom in closer, hopefully. Okay, and so all I'm doing is I'm turning it up to the edge, and I am making sure that this seam here meets that seam there so that I get a good sharp corner. Now I'm going to need to pin it all the way down, and as I showed you on the pattern, this is rather long because I'm right in the middle. But I'm going to pin each one of these, and as you see, this one doesn't quite meet naturally, so I'm going to ease it in there. And there's a lot of cut triangles here, so these are rather stretchy, and you have to be kind of careful that you don't stretch them out of shape. But you see that this one didn't quite meet, so I had to ease that in a little. And don't worry, it'll firm up just fine when I go to sew it. And so this one I've got to stretch it the other way just a little bit. And this is what you call easing it in. I call it making it fit. But and you just do this all the way down. And like I said, this is a center row, so it's one of the longest in the quilt, and there's quite a bit here to do. So this will take me a few minutes to pin it all the way down. But I wanted to show you what I was doing. And in case you hadn't seen, and you see here, it's, my piecing's not perfect, right? But it's going to be in the seam. Nobody's ever going to know it. It'll hold. And I'll just sew a straight line all the way down, and those uneven edges will just go right in there. Nobody will ever know they're there. So just to keep going, it's rather long, and that's okay. And sometimes I like to go along and put, you know, 3 or 4 pins in all the way down in the right spot and then fill in the gaps between them. And sometimes it's good to start in the middle and work your way out depending on what you're doing. This particular thing, this particular seam is going through a lot of points, and so I can go one edge to the other without a problem. However, if I was doing, say, a border, maybe, or something that was just a straight line sewing, you know, and you need to pin all the way down, I would probably start in the middle of the piece I was adding it to with the middle of my piece I was adding, so that to ensure that my middles were matching. And then that way, if I needed to ease it one way or the other, I could do that as I went. And like I said, you can feel it when you're doing this as you line them up, and you kind of just do that with your finger, and you can feel it like lock in there where those 2 seams meet, and it's not difficult. But sometimes you get ones where they're, you know, they're a little off in, oops, pin doesn't want to work. They're a little off, and you kind of gotta, you know, ease them in to make them fit. And that's okay. That's part of it. As long as it's not a huge amount, it's usually just fine and nobody ever notices. Where I find most of my problems are with these stars, because they're all angles, and that's where the most of the stretch is. And so, and these blocks have the most pieces, and every time you add a piece, there is the chance of, you know, getting off just a little bit. So each block, that's why a lot of, you know, they often say to trim your blocks and make them all one size. I don't really do that unless I'm trying to be really super precise. If I've got some wonky edges or rough spots, it's okay. It'll all come out. And, you know, when I'm done with this, nobody would ever know that those wonky edges were in there, so it's totally okay. As you can tell, it's quite a long distance here. Now see, this one is a bit off, right? So I'm going to double check, make sure I got that one correct, and I do. And so I line up this one. Just hold it there until I get a pin in it. And once I get the pin in it, you can see it's not as good, but it'll piece in just fine. So I hope everybody's having a good day. It's Sunday here, and we are just laying around being lazy. We've had a busy week, running here and there, doing some sightseeing and other fun stuff. And I decided I wanted to get this going, so I got this quilt started. Now I've got a week before we move, and I'll have to put everything away. So trying to get this one done, at least the top done, before we have to move. You know, of all of these pieces, the ones I want to really match are particularly these star points, you know, so that the star is at least straight and whole, right? Okay, almost there. I know it's been a while to get to the end. This is probably really boring to watch, but if you're trying to learn, it's helpful to see someone do it, right? Especially if you've never done it before. And I get that. So you can always put me on fast speed. I'm not saying anything important. You could speed through this to see how I'm doing it. Almost done. The other thing is when you're sewing this, you're going to want to take your time. Don't rush it. This is not a seam that you want to do super fast because you will, you see I did this one pin already when I picked it up off the table a while ago. So line that one up. You're going to want to take your time when you're doing your seam on this. You see that? It's okay. And take your time over all of these seams. Lots and lots of seams, every 2.5 inches. Or 2.25 inches, I guess, once you've got seams in there. So it takes a little bit to get to the end. And again, don't worry about this wonky end out here. It'll get taken care of when I put my corner on. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording and adjust my camera. Hopefully you could see that okay, and I'll go ahead and let you watch me sew.